Okay, we are live. It's noon and it's time to start the Age Well webinar, Equipping Yourself for the Journey of Aging. Good afternoon. My name is Joanne McCarley and I am the Executive Director for Shining Care. I want to welcome you and just a few housekeeping items. We're not ready for trivia yet. There we go. Just a few, we're going to just relax and enjoy. You can have your lunch if you want. We can't see you or hear you, but you can see and hear us, of course. Today's webinar is going to be recorded. And so, if you can't watch the whole thing, you can tune in later and we'll make that information available to you, or you could tell your friends about it and they can watch it as well. Also, we want to invite you to use the question and answer feature at the bottom of your screen. If your questions were not addressed by the panel at the end, so what we're going to do is with those questions that you have, you put them in the Q&A section, and at the end of each presentation, at the final part, we'll have a panel discussion and your question will be asked at that time to the panel. And if we can't, for some reason, get your question answered, we will, Shining Care will be sure to get back to you to answer your questions, okay? So you can use the chat feature and so you can talk to each other, the other attendees, but please don't put your questions in the chat feature, just put your questions in the Q&A. Okay, so now the really fun part is treasure trivia. So throughout our presentations today, you will find a treasure box like you're seeing on the screen now. And so next to the treasure box will be a word, and those are your clues. So as you find those clues, those key words, there's going to be 5 of them. Put those down in the Q&A, and we will keep track of it for you. And when you get all 5, you're entered into the drawing to win $500. And the drawing will be held at the end of the webinar. And no duplications, just one word totaling 5. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so we do want to thank our Treasure Trivia sponsors, Wonderment Real Estate and Professional Exterminators, who have provided the cash prize today. And of course, we want to thank all of our partners and sponsors who have made this webinar possible and our other healthy aging events. And of course, their continuing support of our mission. So we thank you, partners. And I want to give an extra shout out to our premier partner for this campaign, and that is Wind River Resort and Casino. So we thank you all very much. And one more quick thing before we begin. Please do take some time and visit our website. So today you're going to learn a lot of great information, but we want you to know that our website is just full of very helpful information and resources and links to resources. So do check us out at shiningcare.org. Okay, so now I'm really happy to welcome our keynote speaker today, Dr. Arbor, Patrick Arbor. Patrick began his career in the field of aging in 1972. He is the founder and director of the Elderly Suicide Prevention and Grief-Related Services program of the Institute on Aging in San Francisco. He conceived the 24-hour accredited friendship line in 1973 and the methodology for the traumatic grief services in the 1980s. Patrick continues to conduct workshops and presents lectures locally and nationally on numerous aging-related topics. He is the author of numerous articles and book chapters on a variety of aging-related topics. He is a lecturer, a senior lecturer at NDN University in Belmont, California, and an adjunct faculty member with the University of California, Davis Continuing Education Department, and an adjunct faculty at the Wright Institute. Patrick was the recipient of the 2013 Mental Health and Aging Award presented by the American Society on Aging. In January of 2015, Patrick was selected as a silver medalist for public service, sponsored by the Jefferson Award Regional Committee. He also is the recipient of the 2016 Norma Satin Community Service Innovation Award for his commitment to human rights and community living. Patrick is currently a member of the editorial board of Generations, a publication of the American Society on Aging. So you can see why we are just so honored to have Patrick with us today to be our keynote speaker. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Joanne, for inviting me to participate. It's always a pleasure working with you and Colleen. And it's also been very nice to meet the other panelists that are on this program today. So I'm excited to hear from them as well. And I want to also acknowledge the people who may be on this platform today that I may have met over the years, and I may have met them through programs that were put together by Maggie McNamara, who I've known for many, many years. So I want to say hello to the people I've met before, but also a big thank you to the people who I haven't met who are participating today. So it's really very nice to be with all of you today. As Joanne was saying, that one of the programs that I began in 1973 was the Friendship Line. And some of you may be aware that since the pandemic in, I guess, mid-March, when we were really in this lockdown, that in a partnership with the State Department on Aging, they collaborated with us to extend Friendship Line in a little bit more visible way to the other 58 counties, and it's called Friendship Line California. And when I was asked to talk about successful aging, and I was very aware of one very important thing that we need to be aware of is our ability to connect with others. And I know the other panelists are going to talk about ways in which to enrich our capacity to be together as a community. And certainly that's what Shining Care is all about as well. And so you can use that Friendship Line California number, that 888 number, to connect with trained volunteers who are very willing to talk to you. One does not have to be in a crisis. One just has a feeling inside of yourself that, you know, I'm feeling lonely and I'm not sure who I can contact. And so Friendship Line California is there for you. The other component that Joanne had mentioned is our grief services. And it's another way to kind of break that feeling of isolation when we're, you know, experience, you know, just painful losses. And healthy aging doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to ever feel bad or we're not going to have, you know, some health issues. What it means is we're going to do the best we possibly can to manage and sustain, you know, a healthy attitude about whatever it is that life throws in our way. And anybody who's listening can participate in our grief meetings. Our Zoom meetings are every Saturday. All you have to do is contact me, and I'd be very happy to talk to you about that. Huh. I don't know why I can't move my slides. Let me see. Oh, there we are. I just like to begin with this Linus and Snoopy little cartoon. Linus says, "Someday we will all die, Snoopy," and Snoopy responds, "True, but on all the other days we will not." And I think that's really the nucleus of my talk on successful aging, is that we can recognize that yes, life is about impermanence. However, today we're still here, and that's what we want to focus on for us, today is that we're still here. And not only are we still here, we're going to be here for quite a while because, information from, many researchers in aging are acknowledging, that, for example, with retirement, many of you listening today may have retired, or you may be partially retired, or you're doing volunteer work or other type of services. And what we're noticing is that current retirees are living longer than did members of previous cohorts. And this, what is often referred to as the third age, is a time during which adults experience new opportunities for self-realization and fulfillment. Um, it's really important for us to kind of think about this statement that was made by Dr. Uh, Diamond, Dr. Marion Diamond, that some of you may have heard about, which is that use it or lose it uh, refrain. And that's really what we want to do, is that we really want to be able to say, I can engage with people. I can do things. I can, take courses online on Zoom, come to a program such as this. This new reality has left many older people wondering, however, how they're going to live, what they're going to do, and who they will be in the next 20 or 30 years, because we will be able to live that long statistically. So we need to think about that. Very advanced age is going to be the experience for many of us. I am 72. I'll be turning 73 this year. And as I say to people, I feel like I'm finally at the age I was always meant to be. Uh, you know, 30, well, it's okay to be 30. And for those of you that are in their 30 to 40 corridor, yeah, that's where you are. And I think every age, has its, kind of statement to make. But 30, I wasn't that excited about. 40, whatever. Uh, but when I hit my 60s, I thought, here's where I have been meant to be, And of course, I've been working in aging, since I was like 24, and I finally made it. And I'm quite excited about this experience. You know, you know, mm, those averages that I just mentioned in this slide, are just averages, but about 1 out of every 5 65-year-olds today will live past age 90, and 1 of every 10 people 65 today will live past age 95. And the 85 plus age category is the fastest growing age category in America today. And the second most population in terms of growth is the 100 plus. And so it's highly likely, from a probability standpoint, that many of us on this Zoom platform are going to live well into our 80s, 90s, and some of us will live into our hundreds. And so if some of you are groaning right now, well, we're going to change your mind through this program today so that you will be excited about growing older. Successful aging is sometimes referred to as healthy aging, vital aging, active aging, productive aging, that kind of thing. Um, but what it has to do with is that as long as we're still alive, as long as we are able to participate in society, that's what we want to do. We want to be engaged, involved, and realize that we have something to give. And part of that something, from a successful aging standpoint, has to do with my life experiences, our life experiences, all the knowledge that we have, gleaned along the way, that, as Eric Erickson said, turns into an opportunity for wisdom. And that wisdom that we have really worked hard to gather over the years can be an asset in our communities. But what we want to be aware of are ageist assumptions, these unconscious negative thoughts that we have about ourselves. And when I said that we have this potential to live well into our 80s and 90s, and I said some of you might groan, it's because of those ageist assumptions that we have been taught since we were little not to get old. We've been taught since we're little that old is disposable. And, and we have to change that, and we have to, think it through. And that's what my hope is today, that for any of us who are feeling, you know, uh, just kind of challenged by some of the issues that happen as we get older. The picture on aging well on the beginning of this slide deck. Um, and there's these older people and they're at a beach and whatever. Now, I can't jump and leap like that one guy is doing. I'd fall over when I landed. Uh, but I would still get back up, you know. And that's recognizing that in successful and healthy aging, I can see my limitations, but I can also see what I can still do. And that's what we want to be aware of um, through this presentation today from all of us, is that, we can do things, but we've got to pay attention to negative self-talk that we have been, around since we were little, that old age is about going down the rabbit hole rather than it's a very vital part of the aging experience. You know, um, Modern gerontology, for example, treats aging as a problem of social engineering to kind of be worked through technological means. This one-sided drive to alter, reverse, or somehow control biological processes of aging actually impoverishes its meaning. So-called positive aspects of aging turn out to be disguised ways to restore youth instead of appreciating growing old as a fundamental part of the human experience. That's what we need to be able to talk about. And that's why in all my talks, ever since, I began doing speaking engagements in my 20s, was I always said my age. And I think it's especially important for, all of us in our communities not to be reluctant or not to be shy or to think if I say I'm 60 or 65 or 55, that people are going to think negatively of me. Uh, I think we need to really let people know that it is absolutely fine to be 80 or 70 or 60 or 30, whatever it might be. Uh, and the other thing we want to be aware of in terms of internalized ageism and how subtle and normalized ageism has become in our society is when we hear somebody say they turned 50, and someone will respond to them and say, well, hey, no, you're not 50. 50 is the new 30. 60 is the new 40. 70 is the new 50. And for those out there who are 50, I am no competition. I am 72. I'm not 50. And I live 50. I don't want to go back. And we have to watch those things, or we hit our heads because we forgot our keys and we say, something about, I'm having, I'm having an old experience, and you're 30. You can't have an old experience when you're 30. You're 30. And you're just stressed and you forgot your keys. That doesn't equate to I'm having a senior moment. And I think we have to really watch those subtleties. Any of us, who are fond of older people or who are doing our best to support older people as they age, we need to really look inside and question, did I buy into some of these ageist issues? And we need to watch out for that. So, I really like Thomas More. Some of you have read his books on aging, and and the soul. Care of the Soul is one of his, but a recent book is called The Ageless Soul. And what he echoes is really about, how to stay healthy, how to be successful in our aging process. And he says that, we really need to age. We need to move naturally away from youthfulness to a more complex and enriched personality uh, that is made up of both age and youth. And we really, I think that's so important for us to see that as older people, just like Joanne and Colleen had on the cover, these people at the beach and they're older, and that getting older and being mature doesn't mean ignoring playfulness. That we can still have fun. Uh, And we want to have that combination of the curiosity of the youth coupled with the maturity of older people. And aging allows us to be in this world solidly as mature people, able to relate and to be motivated to make our contributions. I believe that every age has its contributions to make. Um, and we should not shut people off simply because I have more birthdays than maybe Allison. I can see Allison there, so I'll use you for a moment. Um, according to Thomas More, aging requires courage. And, I think, we know that old maxim that I think was attributed to Betty Davis, which is old age is not for sissies. And I think there's something um, so important about that, that it takes courage, and especially in an ageist society, especially in an ageist, sexist, racist, homophobic society, to be able to say, yeah, I'm older, and I am really okay with that, and and we need to be able to stand up and really support our older friends and neighbors and others. And it's an active decision, meaning I am aware that I'm 72 and I'm going to be 73, and that's life, and I am going to be as inquisitive about my 70 to 80 corridor as I was when I was turned double digits at 10. We want to live our life in an onward way, not dwelling in the past, but being curious and excited about the present. We want to say yes to life's invitations rather than, oh no, I can't do it. And certainly with this pandemic, we've had to realize that so many things that we had in our kind of coping, briefcase, uh, we can't do anymore. We can't go to even funerals because mostly they're done through Zoom. Uh, but it's not always going to be this way, and we don't want to look back. We don't want to make excuses. And when we're invited to go on a Zoom meeting or a meet your family on Zoom, and you say, well, Zoom isn't quite the same thing. Well, of course, it's not quite the same thing. It's a screen, and but it's something that we can do. Let's try it, And if you have a neighbor or a friend or a family member that's having trouble, we can find people, and I'm sure Colleen and Joanne know that, can find people that can talk them through how to use Zoom, for example. We can do that, and we don't have to run for safety. We can take risks. Carl Jung and Eric Erickson, who I already referred to, see that aging is a time of spirituality, and that should take some precedence in our lives. And it's when I say spirituality, I rely on the 12-step program and how they refer to higher power and whatever higher power means to you. Uh, but there's something greater than ourselves. If you've read the book Being Mortal by Atul Gawande, he makes that comment that when we get older, we have, a closeness to death and dying in a way that is very different than when we were younger. and and so I'm aware that there is something else that is bigger than myself. Erickson theorized that it is possible to achieve a sense of completeness and a sense of self-acceptance that offsets our inevitable physical decline. Yes, we all know that. We are going to die. We know that life is about impermanence, as Dr. Irvin Yalom would comment on. But again, if we keep that youthful curiosity, if we keep that excitement for, as Snoopy said in that cartoon, that yeah, we're going to all die, but not today. And we need to keep that in mind. According to Kellerman, what we need is a fresh start, a new myth, and a new view of maturity and longevity. We are not victims of dying. We are victims of shallow and distorted attitudes toward dying, and we need to, think about that. Um, you know, and wonderment is the thing that we also want to achieve. You know, many older people achieve an attitude that has long been the goal of various religious traditions, and a sense of this is a sense of immediacy of life and a new ability to live in the present moment. I have never been this age before. Uh, and so, as I said, I think we want to be curious about this. You know, the elemental realities of life assume greater significance. You know, children, for example, I have a 3-month-old granddaughter, and uh, and during the pandemic, I questioned why they had a baby during a pandemic, but of course we had no power over that. She just arrived, and you know, and yet I see her on FaceTime or on, and you know, on Zoom, and I'm accepting of that. It's like it isn't what I would have wanted, but this is the way life is, and we can accept that. You know, we can be more aware of plants and nature, music, touching, you know, textures, you know, there is a lot to think about, um, and we can be aware, uh, you know, of just the wonderment of life, and it's going to be very helpful. You know, the price of this birth of wonder is an acceptance of life's limitations, and that's really critical for us. That as we age, we need to be aware that, yeah, I might not be able to do jumping jacks, but I can certainly walk around the block. You know, and I want to comment, especially for people who live in more rural areas, that it might not be as easy to connect with people or to be able to take a walk with neighbors who are 6 feet apart and you're wearing a mask or whatever. That we want to be aware of, again, technology. We want to be aware, as Joanne was saying in the opening, is that, you know, Shining Care is available. Call them. You know, the panelists are going to offer resources. Take advantage of that. Healthy aging has to do with be aware of what's available in your community and don't hesitate to contact them. You know, you can no longer blame your discomfort on others, and each moment is a choice that that we are having to make, and we can do that. You know, I just wanted to mention briefly this recent study that had to do with people getting older, and participants in that study emphasized the value of being involved in social relationships and activities. You know, that's really important. Um, and you know, this particular study, the first significant finding of the study was that successful aging involves actively engaging with others, you know, actively engaging with others. And everybody who's going to be speaking today knows that that is a crucial part of getting older. One 83-year-old female said, I like to go to the swimming pool. I like to be with my friends. I want to play canasta. And what she's really saying is that in my 80 to 90 corridor, I want to be involved. You know, I'm just not going to sit and binge on Netflix. I want to communicate with people. A sincere commitment to helping others is another aspect of aging successfully. And we want to be very aware of what is available in our communities. And Joanne and Colleen very wisely said, well, you know, we want our panelists to be able to share what they are aware of in terms of their resources and share that with others. Uh, and that is important. You know, Wendy Lusbader is a social worker from Washington State, and she has written a lot about, you know, aging and how to do that successfully. And she said, as we get older, we become more skillful in the art of compromise. And I really see that with myself. And I'm sure some of you on this Zoom meeting today realize that, hey, we change, that we become a little bit less antagonistic. And I know there are some older people that get labeled cranky or um, irritable. And so we have to be aware that we're in a pandemic, and this pandemic gets in the way of how we have usually lived our life. And so, yeah, sometimes we're irritated, but we want to be cautious about labeling people that, because that would be another example of ageism. Wendy talks about brain scans, and she says they reveal that we tend to become less reactive to negative situations with age, confirming that we are better equipped for well-being in relationships than ever. And that's what I meant earlier when I said I'm very happy to be in the 70 to 80 corridor, because I get along much better with my adult son and with my son's mother and just with people in general, because it's like, I just accept rather than fuss over things that I really don't have control over. Um, you know, and this is just a little chart that looks at, healthy aging. So what do we want to do in the few minutes that I have left? I just want to talk about the importance of awareness, and just be aware of how you feel, be aware of your emotions, be aware of your fears. Um, and to be able to talk about that, we need to become aware, because older age is really a time for the cultivation of wisdom and integrity. You know, Older age is a time for going deeper into the self, but it helps to be able to talk to people about it. And you'll learn more opportunities later in the program. But also, you could call Friendship Line. You could call, Shining Care to how can I get more involved? That's an important aspect of this. Recognize that you have a body and listen to it. And that can be extremely useful. And finally, I just want to say that Maggie Kuhn, who was the founder of the Gray Panthers, said, there must be a goal at every stage of life, and there must be a goal. And I think if you don't have a goal, you're going to be really able to kind of think about it and reflect on it as you hear the following speakers uh, who are coming up next. Thank you very much, and I look forward to any questions at the end, and work with my fellow panelists. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. Great advice, such wisdom, and we appreciate it. Thank you. So now I'm so happy to introduce Brian Boss of Boss Physical Therapy to talk about the importance of mobility, balance, and how physical therapy helps maintain health. Brian is the CFO and co-developer, co-owner of Western Physical Therapy, Inc., a growing organization of outpatient physical therapy practices. And I can say that we have seen their facilities are fabulous. Brian graduated from Fresno State University with his degree in physical therapy in 1992 and has been providing patient care, practice management, and clinical development ever since. In addition to business development, Brian is active in various community outreaches and has served as Anderson High School's athletic team therapist. So we're just so pleased to have Brian. Welcome, Brian.
Well, thank you very much. I am pleased to be here and share a few things that that we as physical therapists can help and we can do. Now I'm trying to get my slide to go. Oh, there we go. So my talk's on balance and mobility, and there's my credentials there. I'm with Western Physical Therapy, which is, we have 4 offices here in town. When it comes to balance and mobility, during the aging process, one of the first things that usually kind of comes to mind is balance and mobility. The terms may be defined separately, but they're not really mutually exclusive in us as humans. Mobility has a lot to do with us for independence, whether we're around the house or within the community. Now, Webster defines mobility as the ability, tendency to move from one position to another, usually a better one, and or the ability to move quickly and easily. Balance is often a thought and part of mobility. Like I say, they're not, they can't be mutually exclusive. Reasons for a decline in mobility and balance, multitude of reasons. Medical issues such as a UTI, a stroke, trans-ischemic attack, dehydration, thyroid or an abnormal thyroid, and abnormal blood work, etc. Heart neurological conditions, weakness, vision, orthostatic hypertension, that is when you're laying down, you go sit back up, you feel dizzy, generally is orthostatic hypertension. Pain, good example of pain is if our loved one has a degenerating hip and they go to step and it can give out. So he's definitely a factor in declining mobility and balance. Horseshoe wear and home and community hazards. We'll go through that a little bit later. There we go. Whoop, we missed one slide here. I'll kind of talk about this. I know it's being recorded, and so you'll all see the slide. So the slide you can't see here is long-term consequences of balance deficits. Consequences can be an injury from a scrape to a fracture, decreased mobility, fear of falling, or further fear of falling, especially, and then dependent. The injury that it can cause from a fall can depend on how bad either fear of falling takes place or further impairment. The fear response or weakness can cause future falls, and the other long-term consequence can be family trauma. There are 4 stages of mobility I'd like to use, and how we can assist our loved ones in these stages of mobility. The first stage I like to say is actively mobile. Those in this group, those are people who are taking walks or traveling. They're doing very well, normally uninterrupted quality of life. Our goal here is to maintain current level of functioning. Activities we can do to maintain our current level of functioning are to make sure we do a walking program, light lifting of weights, and that's to help stave off osteoporosis primarily. Also helps with strength. Balance activities. You can do these things at home, in the gym, or in the neighborhood. Now lately in COVID, we've been doing a lot more at home and within our neighborhood. There's also an exercise program that we can do, and we'll talk about that real quickly here. Exercises that we can do are sit to stand, like you just sit on the couch, and go to stand, reaching overhead, helps with balance, helps with strengthening. Not just 1 or 2, when you do 10 or 20 of those in the morning and in the evening. Heel raises without the hand assistance, again for balance. Standing star, it's like you stand on one leg, and then the other leg you reach out as far as you can forward in the 1 o'clock position, and the 2 o'clock, and 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. I guess a better term would be standing clock, but we've always called it the standing star. And then you would stand on the opposite leg and then reach forward to that 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8, 9, 10, and 12. You do it, you reach out as far as you can. Generalized stretching, such things as when you're laying in bed, just bring a knee to your chest, 2 knees to your chest, you rotate your knees back and forth, and then you can stretch your foot as far up into the ceiling as you can. That'll stretch that hamstring. One other one I'd like to do is a swan. So you would lay on your back, and like you were doing a swan dive, reach out and then overhead as far as you can, helps those shoulders out. Lifting weights are important, like I was mentioning earlier about staving off osteoporosis, osteopenia, things you can do with light weights. I think at this level, 5 pounds is good, or you can need less than that. You can do arm curls, shoulder abduction, which is reaching your arm straight out to the side, only going to the height of the shoulder. One of the issues if you go too far In this particular position, you can compromise your rotator cuff and give you further shoulder problems, and we're trying to prevent those. Overhead press, again, when the elbows are in front of you, you can go into overhead press. Make sure you're looking straight ahead for balance, because you can become off balance if you're looking at the weights. Plus, reduces neck injury or possibility thereof. Squats and lunges are pretty straightforward. Another activity which is really important is yoga. Gym or base, I am not a yoga expert, so I know there's lots of videos and whatnot on yoga. Our next level would be slowly losing mobility. This is described as ones who walk on a regular basis and perform their normal day-to-day activities. Now, there is a fear of falling that is starting to set in, at least they're starting to think about it. It starts to limit their independent travel. Our goal here is to stop or markedly slow the loss of mobility. How do we assist? Some of the activities that are important is to have a combination of endurance and balance activities, again, with light weightlifting as well. We also maintain a walking program, gym activities when we are able to. Again, in COVID, most of it's going to be geared towards an exercise program, very similar to what we just went through. Oh, I hear that. Some of the activities, again, now are sit to stand activities. This is slightly limited mobility, so we don't want to be reaching overhead, cause to overtax your balance. Single limb stance, again, where you're standing on one foot at the counter. So if you do lose your balance, we want to challenge you, but not have you fall. So you'll be at the counter, stand on one leg, and then stand on the other leg. 10 to 20 seconds would be great. Standing star, same thing. And it says in an area, generally I would do that in a hallway. And so you can, if there is a loss of balance, then you can touch the walls and make it much easier to maintain your balance. Generalized stretching, just like what we spoke about before. Light weightlifting. This level, you're probably only doing 2 to 3 pounds in the same activities as before. You can even do those sitting. Next level of losing mobility.
Hey, Brian.
Yes.
We've had some folks saying they're having a little trouble hearing. So I don't know if it's possible to like speak louder. I don't know what it's going on, but we'll give it a try. Thank you.
It could be my natural soft voice. Okay, so limited community mobility. Hopefully that is a little better for you. Those what I classify as limited community mobility are those that are self-limiting their community involvement and movement, generally due to falling, lack of strength, and just general lack of mobility. They're primarily functioning at home. They're not independently traveling, and they'll go to the grocery store, but they're very careful. Our goal here would be to improve on current balance and mobility. How do we assist? One of the important things, because we don't always know what's causing any immobility or loss, is important. It is important to go see your doctor, and then they can rule out those other things. And then you can start activities such as light endurance activities. Walking continues to be very important, but it needs to be with somebody. So you can take a walk in, and not just walk in the house. It's nice to get out, get some fresh air. It's great for the psyche to get away from your four walls. Gym programs are not usually the best idea. The problem here is you can quickly discourage people, and then they tend to give up. So we'll stick with home exercise or in physical therapy. And this is where physical therapy is important at this point, because we can help with strengthening balance activities. We watch vitals and teach caregivers. Some of the exercises we can do at this level and that we do are laying down, bridging, we like to call them bedpan lifts, or you lift your buns up off the table, leg lifts, and in the stretching program, very similar to what we talked in the past, 2 levels. Sitting activities, those weightlifting activities can be done in sitting in a chair, and also just sitting in a chair and reaching out is helpful. Standing, you can still do your sit to stands, but make sure you have arms on the chair that can help you assist in with balance. The last level would be fully impaired mobility. These are generally people who are wheelchair bound or they're bed bound. They have severe limitations. Our goal here is to improve, especially with their bed mobility, so they can get in a little bit better comfortable position. Activities are usually associated with home health or they're institutionalized activities. Activities director or whatnot can help them out. Definitely recommend professional training at this level. Additional factors to consider, evaluating the home and living environment. You want to look for loose rugs, loose railing, clutter. Look at the surface area. Is the carpet in good condition, or tile, and whatnot. Surface area around the shower, make sure that it's not slick with tile. You can lay down one of those rubberized carpet. If it has a tendency to roll, you can use 2-sided tape to keep that down. Shower chair, shower slickness, that's a funny one, I know, but most showers are fairly slick. There's sprays or insets that you can put into a shower to keep it from being so slick. Lamp cords, in my days of doing home health, believe it or not, there's lamp cords strung across the floor, so we have to be very careful of those. Additional factors, again, visit your doctor, and so they can evaluate for conditions that we may not be obvious or can see. In closing, make exercise a daily habit. You don't have to do a ton, but make it a daily habit. Walking daily is important. If you're sick, you can still move around in bed and do a few activities. Try not to be in bed too much. Make a plan, make a written plan. And I would put it on the refrigerator of what you would like to do, or help your loved ones out, and remind them maybe some exercises. You can go back on these slides and look at those, or you can email me. I have an email at the end of the presentation. Also seek professional help as needed. That's my contact information. And back to you, Charlotte.
That was really great. Thank you, Brian. And I do want to mention that if you're not sure for a loved one, Shining Care does provide free consultation, and we do like a mini fall risk assessment, which Brian, back many years ago, trained us how to do. So we've always been very thankful. So that resource is available, and you can give us a call on that, just to help make sure your mobility and your balance are in good shape. Okay, well, so I am just, again, so happy to welcome our next speaker, Maggie McNamara from Passages Caregiver Resource Center. She's going to discuss staying healthy as a caregiver, because a lot of us, as we're aging, we are also caregivers. And so it's just so important that we stay healthy through that journey. Maggie has been with Passages Caregiver Resource Center for nearly 15 years and has been providing presentations on dementia and caregiver health for more than 17 years. Maggie earned her bachelor's degree in psychology from California State University, Chico. She volunteered as a member of the Shasta County Mental Health Board, the California Association of Local Mental Health Boards and Commissions, and served as secretary of her local volunteer fire company. As a caregiver advocate, Maggie's great passion is helping caregivers get the resources and emotional support they need and to help them survive the most difficult and yet rewarding time of their lives. Welcome, Maggie.
Thank you, Joanne. And let me see if I can get this to work. There we go. As Joanne said, I'm going to speak to you about staying healthy as a caregiver. And I'm going to start off with some bad news. So the bad news is that 40 to 60% of all caregivers caring for someone with dementia are going to die before the person they care for. So that's 40 to 60%. Age is not relevant. It doesn't matter that you might be over 60 or if you're 40 to 60%. So, oh, it skipped a slide, but why? Why does that happen? And why does it matter that you're caring for somebody with dementia instead of caring for someone with a terminal illness? And one of the things that we know is that caring for someone with dementia is very stressful. It can be one of the hardest things that people have ever done. 53% of caregivers or moms say it was harder to care for someone with dementia than their children. So stress, we know, causes a lot of health conditions. So let's look at some of those that are signs and symptoms of caregiver stress. If you have been a caregiver for a while, you may experience anxiety, depression. 40% of people caring for someone with dementia will be depressed. You may feel tired and run down. You may have difficulty sleeping, overreact to little things like who left the cap off the toothpaste. You may have new or worsening health problems, and we know that caregivers don't go to the doctor because they're very consumed by what they're doing. You may have trouble concentrating. You may find yourself reading the same sentence over and over again and not understanding what you just read. You may feel increasingly resentful to the person that you're caring for. You may be smoking more and enjoying it less, or drinking more or eating more, neglecting your responsibilities like taking care of yourself, going to the doctor, getting the oil changed in the car, paying your bills. And as a caregiver, you may find that you're starting to socialize less. And you remember Patrick was talking about how important that is. You cut back on leisure activities and you're not seeing your friends like you were before. So stress has those health conditions, has those signs and symptoms, but the next step beyond stress is caregiver burnout. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm going quickly because we have a lot to cover in a short period of time. But burnout, you have much less energy than you used to have. You catch every cold or flu that's going around, and we hope it's not COVID. You're constantly exhausted, even after you take a nap or get a good night's sleep. I said this before, you neglect your own needs, either because you're too busy or you just don't care anymore. And apathy is a real good indicator of burnout. Your life may revolve, well, it does revolve around caregiving, but you're not really getting any satisfaction about caring for your loved one. You may have trouble relaxing even when you've got help available. You're getting resentful and impatient with the person that you're caring for. You may feel helpless and hopeless and even suicidal. So these are important things to be aware of. I just want to say that you can do something about this. You want to speak up. You want to spread the responsibility. You want to set up a regular check-in. And when you spread the responsibility, if you have family members who can help you care, you want to get them to help you. And that's the only time it's good to be a super spreader, right? Is when you get that help. Set up a regular check-in. And what I mean by that is take a time, maybe once a month, where you are letting family or friends know the changes that are occurring with your loved one, and also the changes that are occurring with you. It's important to keep that social connection. Say yes when somebody offers help, and be willing to give up some control. Now, control is an illusion, so you're not really giving up anything that you already have. And I want to back up. I added a slide that I didn't let Colleen know about, but this is really important. It's really important to learn everything that you can about your loved one's condition. You want to find out if they have Alzheimer's, find out about Alzheimer's. Is it dementia from Parkinson's? Is it dementia from Lewy body? Do they have vascular dementia? What is going on? And it's important to know so you know what to expect on this journey. The other thing would be join a caregiver support group. It's a great place for problem solving. It's a good place to be with people who get it. The people in a support group are doing what you're doing, or they've done what you're going to do, and they can share that experience with you and help you get through it. I know in my support groups, we laugh a lot, which is really essential for good health as well. I do a whole class on laughter. So laughter is important. We cry a lot, and crying is important as well. Get those feelings, move them outside your body. You want to know your limits, maintain your personal interests. Keep track of medications. I'm not sure if I meant yours or your loved ones, but you want to know where they're going, right? And keep track of your financial issues. They can get out of hand. I had a couple other things that I wanted to say. So thanks for all you do. But before we get to that part, I just want to let you know that it really is important to exercise. And everything that Brian said about exercise is important. It doesn't have to be boot camp. It can just be walking around the block. If you can't walk around the block and get that fresh air, walk around your backyard 50 times. The other thing is, don't eat crap. And I think that Becky is going to talk a little bit about more healthy living and healthy eating. And with that, I want to say the last thing you want to do, or maybe the first thing, is call the professionals like Patrick was talking about. Call me, call Becky Robinson, call Brian, call Allison, and call the Friendship Line California, and call Shining Care, because we can help you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Maggie. Always so helpful. And I can attest to Maggie truly is outstanding in her field.
But I come in from the field sometimes.
But you are outstanding in your field, and you've been very helpful to numerous clients of ours over the years, and then to me personally as I have done the caregiver journey. So thank you. So now I welcome Allison Hansen, who is the Community Education Specialist with Shasta County Health and Human Services, Public Health. Allison works as a Community Education Specialist with Shasta County Public Health, and will discuss the best way to prevent yourself from getting sick and avoid being exposed to the flu or COVID viruses. Very timely. She began her work with public health in January and was one of the first responders to the coronavirus pandemic in February. Allison was initially recruited to answer all incoming calls about coronavirus to better inform the public. So she's a great resource for us. Since then, she has worked with businesses to provide education, congregate living, facilities to advise on stopping the spread, and she works as a contact tracer for people who have been exposed to coronavirus. In addition to her coronavirus responsibility, Allison also works on the Healthy Brain Initiative, a new $750,000 grant that works with Alzheimer's and dementia in Shasta County, which is very exciting. Allison loves working with diverse projects in her work with public health, and is serving in our community. And since we've met Allison, she's been a great support to Shining Care in our mission. So thank you and welcome, Allison.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit more about preventing, it went back too far. About preventing COVID and flu this season. So to start, the best way to prevent yourself from getting the flu or coronavirus is to avoid being exposed to the virus. So the flu and COVID are both spread usually through person-to-person contact. And so you can try your best to limit your contacts, and that will significantly reduce your risk of getting the COVID or flu. So basically, I'm going to talk to you about some other preventative strategies that you can use today. So the first one, and we've heard this one since we were kids, is wash your hands. You're going to want to wash your hands with warm, soapy water for about 20 seconds, especially if you've been in a public place or you've been coughing into your elbows or touching a lot of surfaces. You're going to want to make sure your hands are clean. You're also going to want to clean and disinfect commonly touched surfaces. Where I am right now, I see that my phone is around me and I touch that often, and then my computer mouse also as well. So if I can clean those off, it might be better for my health, and it can clean some germs that may exist on those surfaces. Also, you're going to want to wear a mask. So when you wear a mask, you prevent yourself from spreading these viruses to other people. And so what you can do to see if your mask is fitting you properly is you can take both of your fingers and make little L's and then touch them together so they make a triangle, and then put that on your face. So that's the area that you want to target for your mask. And when you put your mask on, it should fit snugly. And so you should be able to breathe easily, and it should go over your nose. Make sure that your nose is also covered. You don't want anything coming out. Okay. Also, when you are in public, cover your coughs and sneezes with your mask. It feels gross. No one likes to do it. But if you take off your mask to cough or sneeze, that's not helping anything. Another way that you can prevent the spread is you can limit your contacts to other people. So stay 6 feet away from people. If you're worried about your health or worried about spreading it, maybe wear a mask. If it's someone that's in your household, make sure that they're not engaging in any risky situations like going to parties or going into big group events. So stay away from members of your family who may be sick or other people who may be sick. And if you're feeling sick, please stay home. It will really help prevent the spread. In Shasta County yesterday, 9 people over the age of 60 tested positive for coronavirus. So we're seeing a lot of numbers for coronavirus, and we want to prevent that spread and slow it down a little bit. I know that these preventative measures get old, but it's really important. So wash your hands, clean surfaces, wear a mask, limit your contacts. Okay, so next I want you guys to remember, even though we are in the time of coronavirus and even though the flu is still a concern, we want you to take care of yourself. So we have sacrificed a lot to stay at home, to wear masks, to limit our social contacts, but we still need to take care of ourselves. So you can remain physically distanced from people, but still make sure that you connect with people either over the phone, over Zoom, whatever works for you. Also, Dr. Patrick talked about the friendship line, and that's a great resource that you have as well. Also, take care of your body and your diet and exercise like some of our other presenters have talked about. So eat a diet that is healthy, include some fruits, include some vegetables, put a whole grain in there, and you'll feel better when you eat a balanced diet. Also, if you have a hard time getting fresh fruits and fresh vegetables, canned fruits, canned vegetables work too. And try to exercise 30 minutes a day to stay active. If you stay active, it'll make you feel better as well. And if 30 minutes seems like a lot of time for you, you can just break that up into 3 10-minute segments or 2 15-minute segments. Or, sometimes we don't get all the way to 30 minutes, 20 minutes also works too. Whatever works for you. And do things that make yourself happy. So continue your hobbies, invest in new hobbies. So, grow plants if you're interested in that. Cook new foods, try something that's positive and healthy for you, and avoid unhealthy habits. Like when I'm stressed, I drink a lot of coffee, and I know I shouldn't, but that's how I sometimes cope with things. So when I want to drink a lot of coffee, sometimes I will remind myself like, okay, I should drink a bottle of water instead. It'll make me feel better. And I think that doing those healthy habits will help you feel better too. Also, I wanted to let you know, that we have flu shots available in Shasta County. So the flu vaccine can prevent the spread of the flu, and it can prevent you from getting the flu this year. And it also is shown to reduce the risk of hospitalization and death. So getting a flu vaccine can save healthcare resources for people with COVID-19. So you think, well, why would getting a flu vaccine help save resources for people with COVID? Well, when people are hospitalized for the flu and people are hospitalized for COVID, sometimes they need the same resources like ventilators and certain types of medical care. So if you get a flu vaccine and you don't spread the flu, then it reduces the risk of the flu negative health effects, essentially. And people with COVID can receive those treatments because we do not currently have a vaccine for COVID. And if you're concerned about whether or not you should get a flu vaccine, please talk to your doctor. They would be the best person to turn to for advice. And this year, flu shots are free. So we have that available at shastaflushots.com. And you can take control of your health and you can help reduce the spread of COVID and the flu by going to Shasta Flu Shots and getting your flu shot this year. It's totally free. So to summarize, wash your hands, wipe down surfaces, take care of your mental health, distance, exercise, just be healthy and be well this season. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Allison. Good information. Now I welcome our last but not least speaker, Becky Robinson. Becky is the Regional Director for the Alzheimer's Association, and we'll be discussing what the most current research tells us about changes we can make that can help our bodies and our brains age well and as well as possible. And by exploring these 4 aspects of healthy aging, we can age well. She is the Regional Director of the Alzheimer's Association, Northern California, and the Northern Nevada Chapter's Chico office. Becky oversees the administration and management of the Alzheimer's Association in the North Valley area, which is comprised of 11 counties. She leads a staff and volunteer team that provides education, information, referral, care consultation, and support services for families coping with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. Becky has worked with individuals with Alzheimer's and related dementias for more than 28 years. She has experience facilitating support groups, counseling Alzheimer's families through the disease process, and presenting information on Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and caregiving. Welcome.
Thank you, Joanne. So happy to be here today, and thank you to all the presenters and panelists. Such great information, and I think some of this information that I'm sharing today hopefully will tie some of that together as well. So going to talk about healthy living for your brain and body and some of the latest research. Some of it's tied to research, some of it's not. And we've heard some great tips already in regards to healthy living for our body. And what we know is that what's good for our body is also good for our brain health. So, you know, as we age, we kind of expect some things to change in our bodies. We may get a little slower. We may not be quite as strong. Our vision may diminish a little bit. There's some things that we kind of expect as we get a little bit older. And we know that there's some measures that we can take that might help with some of those things. If we have good physical exercise, we may stay stronger as we get older. So the same's true about our brain. So as we keep our brain healthy, it can help us diminish our risk for cognitive decline and diseases such as Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia. I do want to note that what we talk about here and even other research currently, there's no absolute 100% cure for Alzheimer's disease. And these things that I'm going to talk about today, these points, aren't 100, they're good preventative measures, but we could do everything right, and it still necessarily won't help us to not have Alzheimer's disease or dementia, but they are things that are super important for our brain health. So we're going to cover these 4 areas: cognitive activity, physical health and exercise, social engagement, diet, and nutrition. We're going to start with physical health and exercise. And this is the area that researchers have done the most exploring with in regards to brain health and Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. And here's what we know now. We know that things, when our heart is healthy, what's good for our heart is good for our brain. So when our heart is healthy, so doing things like cardiovascular activity, it may reduce our risk for cognitive decline. So here, this is another reason for us to do some good physical activity. Regular and vigorous exercise leads to increased blood flow. And when we increase our blood flow in our physical body, it also increases blood flow to our brain, and that also carries more oxygen to our brain, and that is very beneficial. There's no single recipe, meaning that there's not a one size fits all. So there's not one specific kind of exercise program that's, you know, better for our brain. It all has to do with individual, just our individual inclinations and what kind of physical activity we enjoy. One of the things that's really important is that we enjoy what we're doing, do something that we like. For example, I do not particularly care for jogging. So if someone said to me, you know, for your brain health, you really need to take up jogging, that might be tough for me and I probably wouldn't stick with it. So I enjoy walking more. So maybe walking, but in regards to brain health, I might need to increase my pace a little bit to get my heart rate up. So I might just pay a little more attention to increasing my pace for walking. Other people might enjoy other kinds of activities, but that cardiovascular, getting your heart rate up, that fourth bullet point there can be helpful for folks for our brain health. Start out small. You don't have to start out with a big exercise program. Make sure you're safe, get your heart rate up. Ask friends to join you. This slide was made before COVID, but if we're doing an outside activity, we can maybe walk 6 feet apart and still have friends joining us. Folks are getting more used to doing things on Zoom. So doing things with a group can be helpful, and make sure you're checking with your doctor. Some other things that are related to brain health, and we know these are not good. These are some things that we all know that we need to be paying attention to for our physical health. This also relates to our brain health. So make sure if we're smoking, to stop smoking, avoid excess alcohol, make sure we get adequate sleep. We're hearing more and more now about how sleep is so important for our general well-being and our general health. This is also important for our brain health. Studies have shown that people that don't sleep well are at a higher risk of showing signs of Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia. It's not going to cause us to have Alzheimer's disease or other types of dementia, but it might bring the onset on a little bit more quickly. So here's another reason to pay attention to some of these things and make sure we're getting good sleep. Avoid head injury, so things like concussions. Manage stress. So make sure that paying attention to stress, as Maggie mentioned in her presentation, as caregivers and stress levels, and just for all of us in general, in current days, our stress levels might be a little higher. So we want to pay attention to that. Stress is not good for our blood pressure and our physical health. So it definitely does not help with our brain health. Treat depression, make sure we're checking for depression and signs of depression, and visit with our doctors regularly. I am going through some of this a little more quickly. If you do have questions, please make sure you put those in the chat. One of the things in regards to research with Alzheimer's disease in particular has to do with this slide here in regards to what we call our numbers, our blood pressure, blood sugar, weight, and cholesterol. And again, we we all know that for our general physical health, these are good things to pay attention to. So we want to make sure that we're paying attention to blood pressure. When we're able to keep our blood pressure lower, that is helpful for our general brain health. Diet and nutrition. What we know is, again, what's good for your heart, it's good for your brain. Nutritious food is fuel for the brain. Following some dietary guidelines can reduce our risk of heart disease, cancer, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, stroke, and diabetes. And when one diet in particular in regards to Alzheimer's disease that has been researched that has been helpful is the Mediterranean diet. And when we think of the Mediterranean diet, and they have studied folks that have followed the Mediterranean diet in regards to their brain health, vegetables, fruits, nuts, lean meats, vegetable oils, or olive oil in particular with Mediterranean diet. And we know those other things to avoid. I think we're all pretty well versed in most of the things to avoid. Here's another reason for our brain health to be eating healthy. So healthy diet and exercise, very important. We want to make sure we're consulting reputable sources about dietary supplements and vitamins. We want to make sure we're talking to the experts on those types of things. Cognitive activity, keeping our active active is important. And we hear all the time of, well, I do crossword puzzles, I'm keeping my brain active. That is fantastic. And research has shown in the more recent years that the more we use our brains, that we actually can make new connections among brain cells. That's really exciting information. So in regards to our brain health and helping to diminish our risk of onset of Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, that cognitive activity is very, very crucial. And what's even more important than just, if we're an expert at crossword puzzles, that's fantastic, but doing something new and novel, something that's a little bit challenging, can even be even more beneficial. So kind of really stimulating those brain cells and really working them just like we would a muscle. If we're lifting weights, something that's a little bit challenging for us really helps, is more beneficial for that brain health. So learning new skills or hobbies, and some folks, might be a little silver lining with being at home more right now. Some folks are learning new skills and hobbies. That's great for our brain health. Puzzles, reading books, all of those good things, anything that is engaging our brain. Social engagement, and Dr. Abor, just talked about this early on, and it's so important that we don't become isolated. It has been shown that folks that are more isolated will start to show more signs of cognitive decline. And when you think about it, not having that kind of interaction, the social interaction, and just our general well-being, if we start to have some depression and our general well-being is declining, then that can affect our brain health and might heighten our risk of showing some signs of Alzheimer's disease or other dementias. So we want to make sure we're staying engaged as much as we can, remaining both socially and mentally active as much as we can. Visiting friends, here are some things about social engagement and how we can stay involved. Some of these things might be a little tougher right now, but just trying to keep in mind that these can be important things for our brain health. So we want to make sure that we get moving, that we're eating right, that we're keeping our brain active, and that we're staying connected with others. If we can do all of those things, or even a couple of those things, that helps improve our general well-being, and this helps improve our brain health, which is all important for all of us right now. So thank you all very, very much, and I'll close with that. Thanks, Joanne.
Really great information for keeping our brains healthy. So important. Thank you. Just really quickly, I want to make sure we thank also our public partners. The PSA2 Area Agency on Aging provides aging and adult services for the benefit of older adults, which promote the ability to remain home with maximum independence, dignity, and choice. And they have been so supportive of our missions, and they've been critical in helping us bring this webinar to you today. And with them is the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program and HICAP, Health Insurance Assistance Program. So thank you, partners. So now it's time for our question and answer session with our panel of experts. To those who are playing the treasure trivia game, it's time to send in your 5 words. If you could give us all 5 of your words, along with your full name and phone number in the Q&A section, then we will put you in the drawing for the $500 cash reward. So we're looking for 5 separate words, no duplications, and we will announce the winners right after this panel discussion. All right. So we're going to bring on Colleen now, I believe, and she's going to ask our panelists the questions that you've sent in.
All right. So we had a few questions coming that came in. Wish everyone good luck on your treasure hunt. Hopefully everyone got their words in. Our first question is, if I get a flu shot, should I still wear a mask?
Yes. So if you do get a flu shot, you should still wear a mask because COVID does not have a flu shot. COVID does not have a vaccine right now. So the only way to really prevent COVID is by using those practices of washing your hands, wearing a mask, and social distancing.
Okay. And then in the same lines there, where can I learn more about getting flu shots and COVID? Does the county or anyone have some websites that I can go to?
Yes, we do. It is ShastaFluShots.com. So Shasta is in Shasta County, FluShots.com.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right. So this one was about the friendship line. Does it take long to get the friendship line service started?
Hi, this is Patrick. And no, if you call Friendship Line California and that 888 number, you can talk to a trained volunteer very easily. Because of our partnership with the State Department of Aging, they wanted to have a separate line so that people from other counties wouldn't be competing with San Francisco City and County, which is where we began. And so you may have to wait a couple minutes on the queue, but you're higher up than you would be. And if you are interested in a friend or neighbor or relative that has some cognitive impairment or some health issues, and you want someone to call out to them, just let the volunteer or the staff person, because you may get one or both, and let them know that you'd like to make a referral for outreach. And you can do that just by calling the 888 number.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. All right. Another one was, of the 4 components that Becky talked about in the connection to healthy body, healthy brain, which one is the most effective?
Thanks, Colleen. Good question. The most effective is the exercise. So the physical exercise is the most effective of the 4. So if you're only going to do one of the 4 things, try to incorporate the physical exercise in your routine.
Okay. And this one is along the same lines for you, Becky. I eat well, do crossword puzzles, and I exercise regularly. Does this mean I won't get Alzheimer's disease?
I wish I could say yes to that. That would be fantastic. That does not necessarily mean it won't get Alzheimer's disease, but it definitely is important in regards to keeping that brain healthy. So the more involved in those 3 components, it might help delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease. So it helps us keep our brain healthy.
Great, thank you. All right, this one's more of a mobility. What would a therapist do differently in the clinic versus home to improve balance and mobility?
Well, some of the things that we can do different. This is Brian. Some of the things we can do different in the clinic is we get a deeper assessment to really see what's going on, whether it's shoe wear, factors around the house or whatnot. So we can assess that more, and then gear a program specifically for that person, whether it's function loss or mobility loss or loss of strength.
Okay. And does insurance pay for the physical therapy, Brian?
In most cases, yes. Medicare does. Medicare says they have a limit that's it's kind of an arbitrary limit, but yes, the answer in a simple term.
And this person had one more question to that. Are all balance problems an indicator of a worsening conditioning?
Not in all situations. No. Sometimes it's just an inadvertent trip over the cat or something, over a cord or whatnot. So.
And then we just had another one come in for you, Brian. Can a person contact you directly, or do they need to get a referral from their doctor?
You can contact me definitely directly. When it comes to very specific plans for somebody, we really need to see that person and evaluate them. But you can contact me, and I can direct as needed what you need to do.
Great. And then this was for Maggie. What services does Passage's Caregiver Resource Center provide, and how do you register or get involved to get some services from Passage's?
Thanks for the question, Colleen.
Sure, Maggie.
We work with family members who are taking care of a loved one with a cognitive impairment or are frail elderly. They call, we're a nonprofit, we're grant funded. We can help with some emergency respite care. We do a lot of classes and trainings on caring for yourself as a caregiver, understanding dementia. We do support groups, like I mentioned. We can help with assistive devices, legal consultation concerning powers of attorney. The name resource in Caregiver Resource Center means we try to help them find whatever they need to do to stay healthy and sane as a caregiver. They can call me. It takes about an hour on the phone for me to ask questions. Doesn't cost anything.
Great, thank you. This is actually to Becky and Maggie. Is there respite funding through either one of your agencies?
Yes.
Go ahead, Becky.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Ours is set up a little differently than Caregiver Resource Center, but yes, we do have a respite grant program available through the Alzheimer's Association.
Okay. And Maggie,
What was the question?
you have funding for respite through your agency?
And we're grant funded federally through the Older Americans Act. We do have some money there, and we're funded through the State Department of Healthcare Services. So right now we do have some funding. That can change anytime. I would just encourage people to call and see. That's not the only thing that we do, but right now we have funding available.
Okay, so if anyone's interested, you can get hold of Maggie or Becky, and the information is on our screen. And then this question is for Joanne. Can you share what other services that Shining Care provides that might help our families?
Sure. So, our whole mission is to help people age well and be a resource not only to older adults and individuals that may have some sort of disability or incapacity, but also for their loved ones who care for them. And so, of course, our website is really full of helpful information and resources, but we are here to help you assess what you need. So we have our Aging Life Care program where we can do free consultation and assessment to help figure out what's needed to stay safe and healthy and as independent as possible. And we do have the Gatekeeper program. So for those, that's a program that where we equip the community, usually businesses or civic organizations, churches, that sort of thing, to just help be gatekeepers, help keep an eye out for our older adults who may have a change of condition and may not be aware of it or may need some help. And so our gatekeepers are trained to recognize when there are signs of risk for safety and well-being, and they reach out to that person and help connect them to Shining Care. And it's a free program. And that's where we, with their consent, can do that full needs assessment and help figure out, putting in a circle of support and all hands-on help people connect to the services and supports that they need.
Great, thank you, Joanne. And we had one last question: lack of sleep and Alzheimer's dementia connection. What is the most what is the most impactful thing someone may do to reduce this concern?
So I'm assuming that's addressed for me. So without knowing a little bit more about the situation, I'm not sure if that's a caregiver or just an individual but I'll answer generally. So typically with lack of sleep and not sleeping well, I think it usually boils down to for most people, it boils down to stress or sort of a busy brain. And so anything that a person can do to help relieve their stress level. There's a lot of information and research now on what's called sleep hygiene, and what you can do in your room, and lighting, and what you do before going to bed and things like that. If this is a caregiver that's getting lack of sleep because they are caring for an Alzheimer's person or someone with dementia that's getting up during the night, that's a different kind of answer. But and there's not an easy answer to that, but that would be a little more in depth of how to work with the individual or loved one who has Alzheimer's disease or dementia. So I hope that answer is helpful. And if the person would like more, I'd be happy to help them. They can call me or email me.
Okay, thank you. Is there a list of group homes for the elderly in Reading? Does anyone have an answer for that question?
Well, I can answer that. So there is, I do recommend just, give us a call at Shining Care 232-5543, or visit our email us at info@shiningcare. We can help you get that list, and also beyond that, help you get connected to the best facility or that suits you, because the good news is there are a lot of choices. The challenging part is knowing, which ones are most suitable for you and within your budget and all of that. So we're happy to help with that. There is the Senior Source directory and Marianne Seifert placement services as well. So we can help folks get connected to all those good resources to find the most suitable place.
And Marianne Seifert's number is 222-2250.
Great, thank you. Okay, that is all the questions. So Joanne, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. I want to thank all of our expert panelists today. We really appreciate your time. And we are a little bit over, so I apologize to everyone. Really quickly, very important, we have had a lot of people playing the trivia included. It started with our drive-through event, folks calling in on the radio, and those folks got an extra entry into the drawing. So Colleen, are you going to be the one making that winner announcement?
I am. Karen, I just drew, and I'll let Karen jump into the
Come out of the mountains, Karen.
die.
There's Karen.
So the winner is a Melissa Smith. And so I have phone numbers. I have a phone number for Melissa, so we'll be giving her a call and letting her know the news.
Great, and we just, so that concludes. I want to quickly again thank all of our partners and sponsors for allowing this event. And please do encourage your friends to find us on our Facebook page, and we'll get you connected so folks can view this webinar later. It will be recorded on YouTube, so we can help folks find the webinar. Thanks for attending. Stay well.